What's up, YouTube? I'm ready to give you guys a benchmark video of two Radeon 5770s in Crossfire before I purchase my second graphics card or whatever. I've been looking for a video just like this one right here to let me know what games are good to run in Crossfire, what games don't support Crossfire, what game utilizes two graphics cards power to bring you one excellent game. And I know this video is not professional, but those professional videos I've been trying to watch before I purchase my second graphics card wasn't able to tell me what I'm about to tell you right now. So check it out. Now what I'm using right now in my computer is an Intel 2 core quad processor, Q8400. So it's nothing special. 2.66 gigahertz, not overclocked. Tried that once before and it wasn't pretty. Computer wouldn't start, so I'm new at it, so don't give me any heat. Motherboard. Intel Extreme Series motherboard, DP45SG motherboard. 2 PCI Express slots, 2.0. Don't get 1.0. That's the old stuff. If you do got a 1.0 slot and purchase the graphics card today and it fits, that don't mean anything because you're not utilizing your full graphics power of that graphics card. So leave that at that. Power supply, 850 watts. Now, you don't need 850 watts to run these bad boys, but it's good to have an 850 watt power supply. All you need is like 600 watts at the lowest or 650. But it's good to have stuff so if you upgrade, you don't have to worry about upgrading a whole bunch of stuff. You know, for example, if you it's time for me to upgrade, it's time for me to get this graphics card that needs this and that. You don't have to worry about upgrading. All you gotta do is upgrade like one or two things. You don't have to worry about upgrading a whole bunch of things just to, you know, upgrade your graphics. Now, speaking of graphics, when you purchase one of these bad boys, do yourself a favor. Purchase this with it, like I did with this graphics card. Purchase a Crossfire Bridge with it. This is my second graphics card that sadly comes with a Crossfire Bridge, but did not come with a Crossfire Bridge. So make sure you purchase a Crossfire Bridge, even if it's like 10 or 15 bucks. Like me and my brother always say, our favorite saying, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And I'm gonna leave it at that. So anyways, this piece of paper right here has some games up on here and some benchmarks of some games. Some games on here I got listed, just kind of, and we're going to get into that. But yeah, stay tuned. First game I got up on the list, give you some benchmarks. All these games max settings. Max settings, no AA, Fallout New Vegas. Now, a lot of people say this game is buggy, crashy, and all that. On the PC, I mean, this is the only time I played is on the PC. So, on the PC, only crashed on me 4 times. It only bugged on me 7 times. So, that's out of a 35-hour plus period of gameplay. So, in a wasteland, you're getting 50 to 60 frames per second, you know, running around a wasteland, shooting up stuff and blah, blah, this and that. On an actual strip, you're getting 30 to 35 frames per second. Sometimes it'd be at 25, it peak down to 25. When you're indoors, it go up to like 50. And, you know, but most of the time out in the wasteland, you're getting 50 to 60 frames per second. Sometimes it'd be 45, sometimes it'd be 55. But, you know, most of the time 50 to 60 frames per second, somewhere around there. Crysis Warhead. Now, Crysis Warhead, you're getting max settings, everything maxed out. Maxed out, everything. 30 to 40 frames per second. The lowest that ever goes like 28 frames per second, even with all kind of action on the screen and all that. 30 to 40 frames per second, though. You know, average. Sometimes they peak up to 45, but most of the time you stay at 40, you know, in between 30 to 40 and stuff like that. And even at 35 frames per second, the game is still running relatively, not relatively smooth, it's running hella smooth, you know. And I'm so happy as far as that game. That's how I know both of my graphics cards are working for that game. Because I had one Radeon 5770, I was only getting, when I was in the middle of my campaign. And then I was like, hold on, let me turn everything to max settings and see how my graphics run. I was getting 10 to 15 frames per second, mostly like 11 frames per second. And it was like running like okay. And I kind of played it like that for an hour and I turned it back to, you know, second from highest. But to get 30 to 40 frames per second just with one extra graphics card, you know, that's kicking that ass, you know, kicking Crysis ass for the last 2 days. Oblivion. When you're out, you know, running around the little world and stuff like that, rendering trees and faraway buildings, you're getting 45 to 50 frames per second. When you're actually in a fighting against some monsters and skeletons and all kind of stuff coming at you, people, you're getting 30 to 40 frames per second. When you're indoors, you're getting well over 60 frames per second, 80, 90, 100 frames per second when you're indoors. Now, Warcraft III, you know, a lot of people, sometimes it's hard to run like strategy game on one graphics card because sometimes the frame rate drops when there's a whole bunch of stuff on the screen, a whole bunch of stuff happening at once. Warcraft 3 is that unfortunate game that does not support 2 graphics cards, along with Half-Life 2 and some other games don't support 2 graphics cards. When you load it up, it goes to a black screen, and it goes black and never goes back. But one Half-Life game that do run is Half-Life 2 Lost Coast. Get well over 60 frames per second, well over it. 200 something frames per second, 170 something frames per second, easily with everything maxed out. Now, speaking of Half-Life, games that come out way back then like Half-Life and Half-Life 2 and blah blah this and that, you don't need 2 graphics cards. You might as well disable Crossfire because you don't need it anyways. You know, with one graphics card with Half-Life 2, you know, episode 1 and blah blah this and that, I was getting 200 to 300 frames per second, most of the time 180 something frames per second with one graphics card. So all you need is 60 frames per second. Most screens refresh at 60 hertz, so you know VSync is gonna be on anyways. Left 4 Dead, 60 plus frames per second when you're just shooting, when you're just walking around shooting zombies here and there, that's standing here and there. And when you actually have a mild horde coming at you, you're getting 90 to 95 frames per second. When you have a big horde coming at you, you're getting 75 to 85 frames per second. When you got a full horde coming at you, just all kind of stuff. You're throwing pipe bombs, motherfuckers jumping on you, smokers sucking you up, not jockey, but hunter trying to jump up on you, boomer coming, tank running his ass through, 50 to 55 frames per second. Now, sometimes it will drop to 45, 40 frames per second, and when it's a bunch of mayhem, when it's a regular full horde that's coming in, 50 to 55 frames per second. Stalker Clear Sky, it's a game that I will not ever touch again with a 10-foot pole, even a 1,000-foot pole. This game's horrible. Anyways, 25 to 35 frames per second. Now, when T-Pain sung that song, Chopped and Screwed, he was talking about this game. And my next game I'm about to mention. He was talking about this game right here. Even at 35 frames per second, even when I was getting like sometimes 40 frames per second, the game was still choppy as hell. On max settings, DirectX 10, no AA, still choppy as hell. I don't like that game. Speaking of games I don't like, Armor Assault 2. I didn't bother to test this game on max settings. I put it on high settings, even at 720p. And I still was getting only 20 to 25 frames per second. It was just running horrible. I'm like, oh my god, this shit is choppy. But for some reason with one graphics card, even when I was getting 20 to 25 frames per second with one graphics card, it was running relatively smooth. No, it's okay. But I guess it don't support 2 graphics cards. As soon as I threw two at them at that ass, you know, it didn't run that well. So I don't know what's going on, but I know it's chopped and screwed. Now, maybe it's because I don't have a $500 to $600 graphics card overclocked or processor overclocked to 4.5 gigahertz or 8 gigs of RAM and stuff like that, just to run one fucking game. Fuck that. I'm gonna let y'all know right now, I have not been gaming for over 20 years like a lot of you guys out there, but I'm not stupid enough, I'm smart enough to know that you don't need a $600 graphics card, 4.0 or 4.5 gigahertz of processor speed just to run a video game. That's for movie editing, game editing and stuff like that. You don't, whenever you need, ladies and gentlemen, whenever you need, don't break your bank trying to fucking impress these video games. Whenever you need a $600 graphics card, processor overclocked at 4.5 gigahertz, 8 gigs of RAM just to run a game smooth on high settings, the highest settings, that game is not worth it. Trust me. And people say Crysis is hard to run. No. Armor Assault 2 is hard to run. And I don't really care about that game. The game made me fall asleep 3 times in a row, so I don't care about it anyways. But that game is not worth it to me to have a $3,000 rig just to run that game. A flight simulator is that hard to run. A shooting game shouldn't be that hard to run. But anyways, Crysis. First game. First Crysis. Max settings. 19 to 25 frames per second. No, and it stays there. It don't go higher. It goes to like 17. It will go lower to 17, but it won't go no higher than 25 frames per second. And trust me when I say this. You know what? I'm wrong. At certain points in time when ain't shit on the screen, it goes to like 35 to 40 frames per second. That's when ain't nothing on the screen, but it's gonna stay at 19 to 20, maybe 25 sometimes. But you know, it was getting 25 most of the time, so that's why I got 19 to 25. Far Cry 2, one of my favorite, in my opinion, the best looking game, one of the best looking games ever on PC ever. On max settings. And they have some settings where you can set some of the ultra high settings. So max settings and ultra high settings. DirectX 10. Everything maxed out. 45 to 60 frames per second. I know that's a big jump from 45 to 60 frames per second. But that's where, because they peak down to 60 to 45 out of nowhere. And then they go back up to 60 for a while. And 50 to 60. And then peak down to 45. But it's still running hella smooth. Love that game. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.